I never thought a square of silk could flip my life like a coin. But that's exactly what happened last spring at Second Wind Thrift. My name is Mara, and yes, I spend an unreasonable number of Thursdays combing racks of other people's discarded dreams. That day, a flash of unmistakable orange peeked out from a tangle of polyester. Hermes orange, the kind that makes your pulse trip over itself. I reached for it just as another hand did. "Oh, sorry." A low, amused voice. "Ladies first." I looked up into the warmest brown eyes I'd ever seen. Tall, slightly unruly dark hair. A camera slung around his neck like he'd been born with it. The kind of artsy, effortless vibe that short-circuits your common sense. "No, go ahead," I said, pretending my heart wasn't trying out a drum solo. I was just being nosy. Actually, I could use a second opinion. He lifted the box like a relic and opened it with ridiculous care. Inside, a pristine silk scarf, blue and gold currents swirling across it. "I'm shooting a vintage-inspired editorial tomorrow, and I know nothing about fashion. Is this anything?" "That," I breathed, unable to help myself, "is a genuine Hermes scarf from the 1960s. See the hand-rolled edges? The artist's signature? Minimum $500 on a slow day." His eyebrows climbed. "Priced at $15. He grinned, and suddenly the thrift store fluorescence felt like stage lights. "I'm Jasper Rowe." He offered his hand. "Fashion nerd meets photography nerd?" "Mara," I said, shaking it. "And yes, incurable. Coffee? You can give me a crash course on vintage. I'll trade you. Well, I have no idea what photographers trade, but I'll figure it out." Coffee turned into dinner. Dinner turned into we without either of us noticing. And 3 months later I was blissfully, stupidly in love with Jasper. It felt cinematic. The jokes that landed, the late-night street photos, the way his palm found mine on crosswalks like it had a homing beacon. It was perfect. Until I met his sister. The first Sunday dinner at the row house should have been easy. I wore a vintage Diane von Furstenberg wrap dress I'd resurrected from near death for $30. Jasper's parents, Vivian and Harold Rowe, were warm, gracious, genuinely curious about the way I coaxed life out of old seams. But Sabine, Jasper's sister, smiled with her teeth and not her eyes. "How creative of you to wear secondhand," she said, sipping burgundy like it was a blood oath. "I could never. Who knows where it's been?" "Sabine," Vivian murmured, warning in a single word. Sabine only shrugged, studying me like a specimen. "I'm just saying, if you're going to be part of the Rowe family, you might consider upgrading your wardrobe. We have standards." He climbed my neck. Under the table, Jasper squeezed my hand. "Actually, Mara has a killer eye," he said lightly. "She's styling my next shoot." "How interesting." Sabine's manicure gleamed, 10 tiny knives. "Speaking of, I just got engaged. Damien Cross, Cross Industries. We're planning the wedding of the season." Something sour flickered in my stomach, but I swallowed it. This was Jasper's family. I could be gracious. What I didn't tell Jasper later. Sabine cornered me in the kitchen under the software of the vent hood. Questions firing like a lie detector. My background, my job, my plans, the number in my savings account, my definition of long-term. And when I mentioned laughing that I'd always pictured a tiny wedding someday, lace, a record player, maybe a garden, she smiled like I just handed her a loaded gun. The next weeks were a blur of curated civility. Sabine always chose the knife with a velvet handle. One night, a simple barbecue to celebrate Jasper's magazine cover mutated the moment she swept in, wearing what looked like half of Gucci's runway. "Mother, Damien's parents are coming," she sang. "You did remember to get the expensive wine?" "I thought this was family," I said, neutral. Neutral is a skill. Sabine's laugh snapped like ice. "Did Jasper not tell you? It's now an engagement celebration as well. Damien's father is considering Jasper for a campaign. We do what's necessary for the family, don't we?" She touched my blazer. Vintage Chanel I'd nursed back to life. "Is this second-hand?" "How brave." Jasper appeared, warm arms around my waist. "It's perfect on you." "It should be," Sabine trilled. "The real thing is 12,000. Then, with a sugary glance at Vivian, "We'll need the formal dining room. The Crosses aren't barbecue people." I watched Vivian's face fall as the platters she'd planned for her son's celebration were exiled indoors. Jasper, ever the appeaser, tried. Maybe we could do both, eat inside but keep the grill going? Sabine's smile said victory tasted like smoke. At dinner, I sat between Damien's mother, who asked if my blazer was a costume, and Sabine, who performed a monologue about couture fittings like a woman auditioning for herself. Of course, Sabine said finally, sugar dipped in steel. Mara must have such creative ideas about her own wedding. Vintage, I assume. The table stalled. Jasper and I hadn't even said the word marriage out loud. My cheeks burned. I haven't really. Oh, right? Sabine cut in, patting my hand like blotting a stain. No date, no engagement. Don't worry. When it happens, I'll show you how it's done. After my wedding, I'll be an expert. Sabine, Harold said gently, tonight is about Jasper. Of course, Daddy. She raised her glass. To Jasper's success. And to family. Later, as guests filtered out, I overheard Sabine's whisper to Damien in the hall. Poor thing. She tries so hard. But class can't be thrifted. Damien murmured. She seemed kind. And that blazer was elegant. Oh honey, you're generous, Sabine purred. She's not raw material. Jasper will figure it out. I gathered plates with trembling hands. In the kitchen, Harold washed dishes like penance. Don't let her feed on you, he said softly, not looking up. Some people mistake cruelty for sophistication. I nodded, speechless around the lump in my throat. In the dark window, the blazer I'd been proud of suddenly looked like a costume. Was loving Jasper worth the entry fee to his world? I told myself it would get better. That Sabine would exhaust herself. That kindness would unspool her. I was wrong. The moment everything truly shifted was at the Roe Lake house. Jasper had proposed the night before at sunset. Knees in damp grass, a ring bright as breath, his voice shaking. It's us. Always. For 12 glorious hours I believed him. I'd left the ring upstairs after washing my hands. On my way to retrieve it, I heard voices through Jasper's old bedroom door. Cracked an inch like a secret. Perfect timing, Sabine was saying, a silk thread of triumph woven through. Now I can use all of Mara's wedding ideas for my own. She'll never suspect. I've been collecting them for months. Are you sure that's necessary? Damien sounded genuinely uneasy. Your brother just got engaged. Oh please. Their wedding would be some quirky vintage mood board. I'm elevating it. Papers rustled. Jasper's told me everything. Her dress sketch, the garden venue, even the antique lace she found. I already booked Riverbend Manor for the weekend before her date. Deposit cleared this morning. Won't that look obvious? That's the beauty, Sabine cooed. If she says a word, she looks like a copycat, because I'm getting married first. I swallowed a sound. The conversation stuttered. I fled downstairs, pulse ricocheting. In the kitchen, Jasper smiled, then faltered at my face. Hey. What's? Can we talk? My voice didn't sound like mine. We stepped onto the deck. The lake glittered cruelly pretty. Have you been telling Sabine about our plans? I asked, careful brittle. Well, yeah, he said, baffled. She's interested. She wants to help. Isn't that? She's stealing everything, Jasper. My hand shook. I just heard her. She booked Riverbend. The garden. The date. His expression cycled surprise, doubt, defense. Come on, that's a misunderstanding. Sabine wouldn't. Wouldn't what? Deliberately hurt me. The words snapped free. That's all she's done. You're overreacting, he said, voice soft the way people speak to skittish animals. She's my sister. The screen door whispered open. Sabine stepped out, concern lacquered on. Everything okay? I thought I heard. Did you book Riverbend Manor? I asked point blank. Her smile brightened, blinding. Yes. Isn't it perfect? I remembered how much you loved it when you mentioned it at dinner. Great minds. I looked at Jasper, begging with my eyes for him to become the man who knelt in the grass. He shifted. Maybe we could all just. Just what? I slid off the ring. It gleamed on the railing like an accusation. Pretend this isn't happening? Pretend your sister isn't picking my life clean like a vulture while you hold the napkin. Mara, don't be dramatic, Sabine murmured, faux sympathy curdling. If you're not ready to plan a wedding, just say so. You're right, I said, throat raw. I'm not ready. Not for this family. Not for a fiancé who won't stand up. And definitely not for a sister-in-law who treats my future like her personal lookbook. I set the ring between us, a tiny merciless sun. Jasper said my name like a prayer and a question. Sabine said, almost joyfully, "Told you, she's not raw material." I walked to my car and didn't look back. I didn't know it then, but that wasn't the end. It was the first honest stitch in the new seam of my life. 3 days after the lake house, I was elbow-deep in a wounded 1950s cocktail dress, teasing stitches apart like a surgeon, when the bell over my shop door chimed and Harold Rose stepped into my universe of rescued things. His suit didn't belong among my scuffed floors and brass racks. He looked like a bank vault in a poetry reading. "Interesting chapel you have here," he said, fingertips skimming a door sleeve as if it might confess. "Vivian says you resurrect these." I nodded, throat tight. Was he here to wring me back into the family machine? To sand me down until I fit? "Jasper's miserable," he continued, voice low but not accusing. "Though I suspect that's not entirely about losing you." A beat. The Cross family pulled their advertising campaign. My needle paused midair. What? Apparently Damien had concerns about working with us. He set a vintage brooch down like it might explode. "Sabine is blaming you." "I haven't spoken to Damien," I said, dizzy with the unfairness. "No," Harold said gently. "But he's not blind. He came by yesterday asking questions about Sabine's sudden passion for vintage." He glanced around. He's starting to see the difference between having taste and taking it. The bell chimed again. Jasper stopped short at the sight of his father, then me. "Dad? What are you?" "Leaving." Harold squeezed my shoulder, almost fatherly. "Remember what I said about authenticity, Mara. It can't be counterfeited." When the door shut, silence swelled. Jasper looked wrung out, hair a map of the night he couldn't sleep. "You left your ring," he said finally. "You left me. You left me first," I said softly. "To stand alone in front of your sister." He flinched. "I talked to her. She'll change venues." "That's not the point." I set the dress down, focused on the torn hem rather than his face. "She's been dismantling my life piece by piece, and you've been handing her the tools." "She's my sister," he said, frustration bleeding through. "I was trying to keep the peace. You were supposed to be my partner." He dragged a hand through his hair and produced his phone like a peace offering. "I brought something to show you." He scrolled through a thread. Sabine's texts flashed by, hundreds of them. Question after question about my sketches, my lace, my playlist, photos he'd taken of my journal under the soft lamp on his coffee table. "She was just excited," he insisted. "She wanted to help." I stared at him, a sudden cold clarity sliding into place. It wasn't that he couldn't see, it was that he wouldn't. "Harold said Damien pulled the campaign," I said. "Did you wonder why?" Jasper's jaw set. "Sabine says you talked to him." "That you?" I laughed, sharp and joyless. "Of course she does. And of course you believe her." The door chimed a third time. Damien Cross stepped in, all contained power and an expression like a final audit. "Sorry to interrupt," he said to the room, then to me. "Mara, may we talk about Sabine?" Jasper moved to block him, reflexive. "Whatever my sister told you." "She hasn't told me anything," Damien cut in, steel under silk. "That's why I'm here. To find out whether I'm marrying a woman with vision, or a woman who steals other people's dreams and calls it curation." The irony was a small bitter candy on my tongue. Sabine's fiancé asking me for the truth while my own fiancé stood there, deaf to it. I gave Jasper one last narrow bridge. "Do you want to tell him about the texts? The photos of my journal? The venue deposit time to undercut ours?" Jasper's silence said everything. I lifted a hand, stopping whatever apology he was about to assemble out of scraps. "I think you both should go," I said, voice even. "Whatever Sabine is or isn't doing is no longer my problem." They left, the bell 3 short notes behind them. Through the glass I heard Damien say very quietly, "You really didn't see what she was doing to Mara?" I didn't catch Jasper's answer. I already knew it. A week later an invitation arrived, thick paper, letterpressed, smug. Riverbend Manor. The palette, the motif, even the debossed border. A perfect replica of the custom design I'd sketched in my private journal. The one only Jasper had seen. My phone rang. "Vivian. I know this is awkward," she said, voice brittle as spun sugar. But Sabine insists you come. She says it would mean so much. I bet she does. I traced the inked filigree with a finger. Did she tell you where she got the design? A long pause. Mara, please. She's trying to make amends. By stealing my wedding on nicer stationery? Vivian hesitated. She also hoped you'd help with her dress. There's a delicate alteration. I almost laughed. What dress? The 1950s door you told Jasper you adored. She found the original through a Paris contact. My stomach dropped. Late nights, whispered wishes laced between my fingertips, and Sabine had hunted down the exact dream. Because she could. Because control was her oxygen. I can't, I said. Mara. The bell chimed. Sabine swept in, trailing a garment bag in victory. I'll call you back, Vivian, I said, and hung up. Surprise. Sabine laid the bag across my counter like a body. I need your magic. It's fragile, and you're the only one I trust. She unzipped. The dress. Ivory silk that made the room hold its breath. How did you find it? I asked, voice gone hollow. Oh, someone mentioned how much you loved it, she said, all dimples and dear hearts. Consider this an olive branch. You help with the alterations, and we can put this unpleasantness behind us. I looked at her, really looked. The gleam in her eyes wasn't joy. It was the shine of a blade. This wasn't about a wedding. It was about proof. About breaking me down to see what I was made of. No, I said quietly. Excuse me. The smile wavered. I said no. I zipped the bag and pushed it gently back. Take your dress and get out of my shop. She blinked, then laughed, incredulous, ugly. Don't be ridiculous. This is my wedding. This was supposed to be my wedding, I said, stepping around the counter, anger turning my bones to steel. My dress, my designs, my dreams. You couldn't stand it. You had to take everything and monogram your initials on it. Her mask slipped an inch. You're nothing but a second-hand shop girl who got lucky with my brother. And you, I asked softly, are what exactly? Besides a thief of other people's joy. She snatched the bag, knuckles white. You'll regret this. I've already called suppliers. Told them you sell knockoffs as authentic vintage. By the time I'm done, you won't have a business, a reputation, or my brother. A new voice from the doorway. Actually, you won't be doing that. Damien stood there, a folder under his arm, jaw carved from resolve. He stepped inside, eyes not leaving Sabine's face. I recorded everything. Every threat. Every lie. Every attempt to sabotage Mara's livelihood. The pattern speaks for itself. Sabine went paper white. You wouldn't. Try me. The softness was gone from his voice. The only reason I haven't delivered this to the police already is because Mara asked me to wait. To give you a chance to walk away. Sabine's eyes flicked to me, shocked and furious. Is that true? I nodded. I don't want to burn your family to the ground. I just want to be left standing. Jasper's name hovered between us like smoke. He wasn't here. Of course he wasn't. Is it true? A new voice asked from behind Damien. The bell hadn't even rung. He'd slipped in on its echo. Jasper. He looked at the folder like it might bite. Every word, Damien said. Do you really not see it? Your sister devoured Mara's life and called it love. Jasper's gaze slid to me. Heavy with regret and too late. Mara, No, I stepped back. We're done. All of us. Sabine lifted her chin, brittle and blazing. You're making a mistake. The only mistake, I said, opening the door and holding it wide, was thinking I needed your approval to be real. They left, Damien last, pausing to lay the folder on my counter just in case. The bell chimed once, soft as a benediction. When the shop settled again, I leaned both palms on the glass and stared at the street until the shape stopped wobbling. I should have felt vindicated. Instead I felt empty, a dress form without its shell. Because I knew the truth no one likes to admit. People like Sabine don't lose. They regroup. And her next move wouldn't be to copy me. It would be to crush me. I braced myself for the impact. I shouldn't have gone to Sabine's wedding. But morbid curiosity is a kind of gravity. I slipped into the church as the prelude drifted through the vaulted air, keeping to the back where the shadows didn't ask questions. Everything was mine. The vintage lace draped over pews, the hand-pressed blooms, The exact ivory palette I'd spent months hunting. Even the record they used for the processional, an antique pressing I'd found in a dusty crate and played for Jasper on a rainy Tuesday, spooled through the speakers like a private joke told to a crowd. "Beautiful, isn't it?" a voice murmured beside me. Harold Rowe stood there, expression carved from regret. He held out his phone. Photos of my wedding journal, page after page, lit by Jasper's bedside lamp. The sketches, the notes, the list titled "What Feels Like Us." "Jasper sent these to Sabine months ago," Harold said quietly. "I found them in the family cloud." My stomach flipped. He thought he was helping. He thought appeasement was love, Harold said. He was wrong. The doors opened. Sabine began her walk, sewn into the Dior like a fairy tale that ate the girl who wished it. At the altar, Damien stood with his jaw tight enough to cut glass. He looked out, caught my eyes for half a second, and there was apology there. Or resolve. Or both. The priest reached the question that tolls like a bell. "If anyone objects, speak now." "I do," Damien said. The room inhaled all at once. Sabine's face drained. "Damien," she whispered, smile cracking. "What are you doing?" He turned to the guests, to the family, to Jasper. "I can't marry someone who builds her happiness out of stolen pieces." The dress, the decor, even the music, copied from Mara's plans. Plans Sabine took without permission. "That's ridiculous," Sabine snapped, voice pitching up like a violin string. "Jasper, tell them." He stood from his front pew, stunned, small. Sabine asked for ideas. I shared. I thought. "You thought what?" Damien's laugh was soft and lethal. "That she was helping?" "She didn't curate, she cannibalized." "It's not stealing if it was given," Sabine shot back, mask fully off now. "Besides, I did her a favor. A second-hand shopgirl doesn't deserve a Rowe wedding." The church went silent until Harold spoke, voice steady as an oath. "Then thank God Mara never gets one. She has more class in her smallest stitch than you've shown in this entire spectacle." Something broke behind Sabine's eyes. She lunged, not at me as I'd braced for, but at the nearest pew runner, yanking. Flowers crashed to the aisle, water splashing, petals like tears on the marble. She tore through the decor in a frenzy, ripping every borrowed idea to shreds, as if destroying the replica could erase the theft. "Sabine, stop." Jasper grabbed her arm. She flung him off with a snarl. "This is your fault." She spat at me across the chaos. "You took everything, my brother, my fiancé, my family's respect. I'll make sure you never have anything that's yours." Security moved, guests gasped, someone sobbed. I slipped out in the confusion, the air outside suddenly too sharp, like biting into ice. The next morning, Sabine was waiting outside my shop. No couture, no armor. Just jeans and a sweater that tried to humanize her and nearly succeeded. "We need to talk," she said, following me in as I unlocked. The shop smelled like clean wood and possibility. "I lost everything," she said, fingers tracing a rack. "Damien won't answer. Mother is disappointed. Even Jasper." "I didn't make you do any of it," I said, keeping the counter between us. "You chose to take. You chose to lie. Because you took my brother," she snapped, composure fracturing. "You waltzed in with your thrift store miracles and your authenticity." She spat the word. "And suddenly I was obsolete. Jasper made his own choices." "Did he?" She lifted her phone, eyes glittering. "He's outside right now, ready to choose again." My pulse stuttered as Jasper stepped in, hesitant, wrecked. "Tell her," Sabine said. "Tell her what you decided." He couldn't meet my eyes. "The family needs to heal, Mara. We need to put this behind us. If you apologize to Sabine." "For what?" My laugh was glass. "For being robbed? For not applauding while it happened? For humiliating her?" he said, wincing. "At the wedding." "I didn't humiliate her," I said, feeling something inside me settle into its rightful place. "Truth did." "Enough," Sabine hissed. "Here's my truth. I'll end you. I've already called every supplier." "Actually," a calm voice cut in, "you won't." Damien stood in the doorway, same folder under his arm, same resolve. He nodded to me, then to Jasper. "I have recordings of threats, forged narratives, coordinated attempts to defame Mara's business. The police were very interested last night." He held Sabine's gaze. They're willing to pause if the harassment stops. Immediately. Permanently. You do this to me? She whispered. You did it to yourself, he said, voice not unkind. Walk away, Sabine. Choose a different kind of story. Silence. For a moment I thought she might. Then pride, the oldest tyrant, squared her shoulders. She looked at Jasper, pleading. Pick a side. He looked at me, at last really looked, and whatever he saw there scared him, not because it was cruel but because it was finished. Mara, he said, reaching. I stepped back. No. We're done. I opened the door. Goodbye, Sabine. Goodbye, Jasper. They went, the bell marking the end like a period. Damien stayed a heartbeat longer. You could press every charge, he said softly. You'd win. I don't want to win like that, I said. I just want to work. He nodded. Then work. 6 months later, morning light spilled across my new studio. Tall windows, brass fixtures salvaged from a shuttered department store. Bolts of silk whispering when I passed. Everything here had a story. None of it needed permission. The bell chimed. Vivian Rose stepped in, elegant and uncertain, with Harold a pace behind. This is beautiful, Vivian murmured, fingers resting on a Chanel jacket I'd brought back from the brink. Harold told me you were building something special, but this? Thank you, I said, adjusting a display to keep my hands from shaking. The last time I'd been inside their orbit, everything hurt. Sabine's in Paris, Vivian said carefully. Jasper's overseas on assignments. They are learning the cost of choices. Harold produced an envelope. We'd like to invest, he said simply. Not to own you. To back you. A chain of restoration boutiques, your name on the door, your vision intact. I hesitated. The Rowe family and I need someone who chose integrity over admission, Harold finished. Let us support that. A familiar orange box sat on my counter. I frowned. What's this? Found it at an estate sale, another voice answered from the doorway. Damien with a small smile. Thought it should find its way back to the person who loves it for what it is, not what it signals. Inside. A Hermes scarf, blue and gold currents catching the light. The echo of a beginning that didn't get to be the ending. And that was okay. All right, I said to Vivian and Harold at last. But on conditions. My designs, my hires, my final say. We wouldn't want it any other way, Harold said. After they left, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. I'm sorry for everything. Jay. I stared at it a moment, then set the phone face down. Some vintage pieces belong in their boxes, kept, learned from, not worn again. The bell chimed once more. A young woman hovered in the doorway, clutching a scuffed designer bag like a talisman. Everyone says it's not worth fixing, she said, hope and doubt braided in her voice. But, you see something in it? I do, I said, and meant it. Let me show you what it can become. At my workbench I laid out tools, the familiar weight of them riding the world. Threads gleamed, the gown waiting for my hands like a held breath. I thought of all the things I'd mended, hems, reputations, spines. Of the difference between relics and anchors. Of the way authenticity hums at a frequency imitations can't fake. Sometimes the rarest thing you salvage isn't silk or leather. It's yourself. I picked up the needle and began again, one clean stitch following the next, writing my life in seams only I could draw.